Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Before we begin with this video, I would like to give a quick warning to all of the aunties, uncles, girls and boys that are ready to pass judgment on me and call me a çok bilmiş pozgun or a chalu girl for knowing and talking about the things that I'm going to talk about in today's video, which is sex. As a 22-year-old woman, I, like any other person my age, have access to the internet and have interacted with people that have also further educated me on this topic. I feel like it is beyond important for us to be able to talk about something as important as sex and safe sex in general, so that we too can be more aware of what we're getting into in the future when we have partners. Without further ado, let's get into this video with a clear mind. Did you know that only 34% of the world's population has a comprehensive understanding of the prevention and transmission of HIV? 2 out of 3 girls in the world don't know what's happening to them when they first start their period. In Delhi, a study was carried out where nearly 1/3 of students did not know the initial symptoms of STIs. 71% of them did not know what herpes were, and nearly 45% of those students did not know what gonorrhea or syphilis were. This is extremely troubling because the lack of knowledge about STIs is one of the biggest causes of the spread of sexually transmitted infections. Now you must be wondering, Anjana, does that mean people have a better understanding of sex ed in Azerbaijan? Is it that progressive out here? No, it's just that it's easier to find world statistics and statistics about India rather than Azerbaijan because unfortunately, internet resources in Azerbaijan are very, very limited. Well, now you must be wondering, what's sex ed like in Azerbaijan? Do you guys have it out here? What's it like in other third world countries? And for that, I actually asked my friends and followers on Instagram to send me their experiences with sex ed in their countries, and I'm going to read it out to you. There was no sex ed at all. We barely covered anatomy classes, and those were confusing AF. Girls got confused about their periods even more than they were before the classes. I don't know whether boys learned anything at all, but nothing about abortion, condoms, HIV and stuff. Not at all. So I moved out of India in the 3rd grade. I basically had no idea what sex ed here is like. But I was in an Indian school in the Middle East. From my experience, they taught the bare minimum. It was mostly about the sexual changes in our body and nothing about sex as such. Also, it was conducted separately for boys and girls. They started doing this in the 6th grade for every alternative year or so. We didn't have sex ed at school. I remember back in 6th grade bio, our books were collected and taken to the office at the beginning of the year. When it came back to us, we saw that the page that had a drawing of a naked female body was glued to another page on the other side of the book. Basically, we had minimum 5 lessons of sex education during which our teacher didn't teach us about consent, contraception, or anything useful. She simply used to say that she knows that we watch porn. Like, what the fuck? She also used to tell us some vaguely related to sex ed stories, and that's pretty much it. One day she tried explaining something about sex, but then some parents of the kids in class started saying that they don't want their kids to have that knowledge. Due to the lack of a basic understanding of healthy sex, both Women and men face various difficulties in third world countries. Not only are they subjected to unplanned pregnancies and the risk of potentially transmitting an STD, but quite often their lack of knowledge results in death. Honor killings are an evident consequence that is very prevalent in third world countries, that is a result of the lack of knowledge about sex, sexuality, and the human reproductive system as a whole. So here are some examples. In 2018, in Iraq, a bride was returned back to her parents' house by her groom because he claimed that she had a loose hymen and did not bleed on her wedding night. He claimed that there were no signs of her hymen breaking. This claim made by the groom instantly resulted in the bride's father having a stroke and dying on the spot, which consequently resulted in the bride's brother beating her to death. Her mother then went to do an autopsy to find out what was her daughter's hymen actually like, and she found out that her daughter had an elastic hymen. Now, an elastic hymen is the type of hymen that does not break even after indulging in sexual intercourse multiple times. So basically, this poor woman lost her entire family, and this poor girl lost her life just over a patriarchal concept that was put upon all of us women a few hundred years ago, which is okay. Let's move on. In 2019, a 16-year-old girl from Bihar had her body found mutilated and doused in acid. It was soon discovered that her parents arranged for her death in such a brutal way with the help of their local butcher. The reason for them doing that was because she eloped with someone else. And the final example of honor killings just because of a woman being a woman was the story of Gandil Baloch. Basically, in 2016, Gandil Baloch, a Pakistani model and actress, was strangled to death by her own brother because he believed that she was a disrespect to her family due to the profession she indulged in. Gandil's demeanor was not approved by the country's standards, which resulted in people on social media actually praising her brother for taking her life. No one's better than anyone. Everyone, India, Pakistan, in Azerbaijan, all of them, same shit. Third world countries in general. Moving on, let's move on. Now, before we move on to our final segment of this video, I want to share two other practices that still exist to this very day that blow my fucking mind. So let's start off with India. So Kanjarbat is a tribe from my state, Maharashtra, that practices virginity tests, and it consists of the groom taking his bride to his room or their hotel room after the wedding ceremony with a white bedsheet in hand, which he has to spread onto the bed, and then indulge in sexual intercourse with her. However, while he indulges in sexual intercourse with his bride, his relatives and the tribe's panchayat, which translates to judge, stands out of the room and waits for him to leave with the bedsheet in his hand, and he has to go up to the panchayat and tell him that the mal is pure. Let me give you some more information about this tribe. Now, if for some reason the bride and groom cannot perform on the first night itself, they are given 3 additional days. If the bride does not bleed, however, she is considered as impure, which results in her and her family being boycotted by the tribe and heavily fined. Thankfully, The government in my state is fighting to get rid of this horrendous, inhumane act of virginity tests. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, it's a bit hard to find resources in Azerbaijani or English about Azerbaijan itself. So for this practice that I'm going to be talking about, you're going to have to take my word for it unless I find an article, then I'll put it on top of the screen for you to read. And that is the practice of having a yenga. Now, the tradition of having a yenga during an arranged marriage is not as prevalent as it was a few decades ago in Azerbaijan. However, some areas of the country, including some parts of Baku city itself, still do indulge in this stupid virginity test taking act. A yenga is a woman, usually the bride's father's sister, that stands witness claiming that the bride is a virgin. Now, similar to the Kanjarbat tribe practice, the bride and groom are given a white bed sheet where they have to perform on top of. And if the bride does not bleed on her wedding night, not only does she face consequences such as being shunned out of her community or divorced by her husband, but the yenga is publicly humiliated by people in her neighborhood by having her hair completely shaved off. I found out about this practice at the beginning of this year, and I couldn't believe that I've been living in a country that legit indulged in such medieval acts. Like, we've had sati in India, which is literally if a husband died, the wife had no choice but to be put on top of his dead body and burnt alive. Yeah, we had that like a few decades ago, but we no longer have it. Thank heavens. No doubt, we still have some shitty practices, no doubt. But Jesus, bu yenge söhbəti həqiqətən herhalde şoka salır. Vallahi ya. Anyways, so let's move on to the final part of this video. Now, as somebody that has a general understanding of sex and sexuality, I am in no way or form a specialist in this field. So due to that, I decided to speak to the wonderful Natia. Now, Natia is a sex expert that has built quite a following on TikTok for sharing sex-related advice. So Natia was kind enough to agree to do a quick interview with me and answer some of my questions and some of the questions that I gathered up that you guys had to ask. So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Natia.
Thank you very much for asking for this collab. I think it's very important to share the information about sex and sexuality for everyone. So anyways, I'm Natia. I'm originally from Georgia. I live in Canada though, in Toronto, and I'm a sexpert, self-proclaimed sexpert, basically. What that means is I've been studying sex and sexuality and relationships and psychology for around 10 years.
Okay.
Regardless, let's go dive into the questions.
So the first question I got was, my boyfriend keeps asking me to give him head while we're kissing. Yeah, is it normal?
So first of all, he probably is asking because you're not doing it yourself. So he's like, because he's seen it probably in porn or somewhere, I don't know, but like he sees that it's normal. So from his side, it seems normal. From your side, it might not seem normal because you have no idea that's like part of act, but nothing is set. It's up to two individuals to decide what's normal and not normal in their sex life. So I cannot tell you what's normal for you. You have to decide.
For centuries, what has made virginity an integral part of a woman's existence according to society's standards?
Virginity is one of the main myth kind of things that I kind of want to destroy because don't get me wrong, whoever wants to be, it's up to them and they should absolutely be. But what I have a problem with is forcing women into it and shaming them and anyways, I'm someone who really promotes the actual information about hymen and virginity, because they sometimes put together, they put like hymen is virginity, which is very, very wrong, misleading information, because hymen is many types, it's not one type.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't always break, and not all women bleed. That's the most horrible lie we've been told, basically. Yeah, why you asked is, well, it's debatable, obviously, but could be because a man could never know 100% if the child is theirs, and women would know 100% if the child is theirs. So it could be just from that long history of who's the father.
What could be the causes of men hating their partners right after sex? I guess we exaggerated.
It's not the hate, it is just a disinterest, which is caused from a hormone called prolactin. That's released out right after orgasm or ejaculation. They get a bunch of hormones in their brain, and one of them is prolactin, which is suppressing dopamine, which is a main key hormone for desire and to like make you do something. So they just lose interest because their dopamine is suppressed by prolactin, which also makes them feel like just satisfied sexual. So they just don't want to do it again. And men who have low levels of prolactin tend to have lower recovery times. So some men will be not exactly that.
Why do guys feel more comfortable trying out all their sexual fantasies with sex workers rather than their wives? And they also claim that they don't do it because they respect their wives too much.
I know, that's so funny. That's so funny. That was actually not anymore in our generation, I think, but in Georgia it was pretty like that was a thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, that happens because of so-called Madonna complex, that someone you love is a pure and clean, and sex is dirty, so you're not gonna do that to someone you love, which is hilarious to me because sex is good and pleasure, and you're not giving to someone you love. Are you okay? You are not okay. They just have a problem of perception of sex in general.
So someone asked, can a woman lose her vaginal virginity through anal?
Yeah, that question right there.
Yeah.
So virginity is not your hymen. It is not your hymen. Virginity is you not being sexual, basically, before whatever. I don't know, before you love someone, before you have sex, before you are married, whatever you decide whenever you do sex. But virginity is not hymen, because hymen sometimes does not exist, but you are still virgin. So therefore you cannot not lose it if you have it through back door. Like you're gonna regardless lose your virginity because it's from the back. Like it's no difference. So please, if you're having sex, you want to have sex and you're having sex, just do it whatever way you want. Don't go back door just because you are saving your virginity.
So we have another anal question. Does anal have an effect on one's bowel movement?
Possibly it would if you're doing like too rough, or if you're not being careful or something. If you're going really slow, making sure it's you're fully aroused and use lots of lube, and also just being careful, you should be fine. But be careful. If it's hurting too much or anything like that, stop and relax. Stop and go after you relax. Don't go crazy on it. And it should be fine.
What's the best way for guys to know whether consent is shared on the first time?
Ask, is this okay? Are you okay with this? Should we have sex? Should we not? I don't know. Just ask questions. And lots of men think that asking is somehow better and not alpha behavior. Which is very not true, because being alpha is correlated with being caring. So you gotta ask questions, and you won't lose her respect. Trust me, you'll gain her respect if you ask her.
Can men that are virgins have an issue with their mental health due to the lack of sexual intercourse?
But not just men, both men and women. I've observed that they would have some some problems, but mostly coming from fear of not being included into some kind of everybody's having and I'm not having, and stuff like that. And also if they're really strongly suppressing their sexual needs, that would be also a problem.
Why is it hard for women to get aroused and not men?
That's a brain block. That's a block that you created when you're very young, when you start learning that you should not be sexual as a woman. That's where it starts. All women who are sexually emancipated, they have no problem. Like they're getting as horny as men and as fast as men. It's not really, it is not the gender based, it's more personality based. Some people, regardless of gender, get aroused easy, some people less easy.
And the last question I have is it possible that men become physically abusive towards their partners during their daily lives if they are dominant in bed?
No, usually that has nothing to do with real life because there are plenty of men who are extremely nice in real life but dominant in bed. It's not really correlated.
So I guess those are all of the questions. I won't take more of your time, Natia. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for asking. And I'm going to check your YouTube too.
Definitely. I will send you the link once it's out, and hopefully we can talk soon.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
This video does not exist to shame those that have or have not indulged in sexual activities. The sole reason for me making this video is to spread awareness on the importance of good sex education, along with highlighting some of the patriarchal practices that still to this date go on in third world countries. I really hope that you found this video informative. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.
They say I bang, they never toy with me. Royal from the crown to my fucking